was, could you say something more about the process of letting go? We're told to let go of something and let go into something. Are these processes actually the same? And are they something we can do? Or do we just notice them happening? So I often say this about meditation instructions. It's a misnomer in many ways. It's an instruction. This is what you're supposed to be doing. They're not really. They're hints. And you have to take them as hints. And you have to kind of see if you're getting the hint, whether it's actually leading somewhere that makes sense to you, that kind of works for you, that gets you where you intuitively feel you're trying to move in a certain direction, and you take the instruction. And so maybe intuitively you have the idea, I'd like to be more peaceful and relaxed. So meditation's about that, so here's the meditation instruction. Okay, so let go into space, let go on the out breath into space, or something like that, or breath, or whatever it is. So, okay. Oh, am I doing this right? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? I don't seem to be doing what it says the instructions say I should be doing. Oh, I don't know if I can do this. I'm not sure if I'm a good meditator. Maybe it's not for me. So that kind of thinking is kind of naive, really. It's more like you sit down and say, okay, let go into space. Oh, I wonder what that means. Space. Kind of. Got a bit of a sense of that, but it's not. I don't think that's. It's like we were saying yesterday. I think it's more. Maybe I'm imagining it. I wonder. So as you're doing it, you're kind of thinking, but in a very light way, kind of wondering, reflecting, and it's for you. As I said yesterday, it's for you. It's not. You're not doing it because you're supposed to, because somebody says you should, or there's a right way of doing it. You're doing it because you want to discover truth. You want a truth that's liberating. And when you say you want relaxation and you want to feel better in yourself, it's because you want that. So if letting go into space is that relaxing, and your first intuitive feeling is it would be, like letting go into space. Oh yeah, that sounds good. Just leaping into space. The first moment of that instruction is a really good hint, but then, as the question's implying, but then you can't do it, can you? If I actually think to myself, okay, I'm now going to let go into space. Let go of what? Let go of something into somewhere. which where? You've actually got yourself in a bit of a knot, haven't you? So you have to go back to that first inspiration, really. It seemed to be the right direction, letting go into space. But I'm not doing it. So that's actually the meditation, because otherwise you wouldn't need to meditate. You'd just kind of hear it and get enlightened at the end. But we don't quite get it. So you work with the hint. Yeah, it does feel the idea of space. Oof. Yeah, there's all sorts of associations with that resonates in my heart somehow. Yeah. And then the more you sit with it, and the more you notice your experience, you've got this strange paradoxes start to emerge. Like, I can't stay there. It says let go into space, but I can't stay there. I always start thinking immediately. You know, I might think space. Okay, I'll focus on it. But you're already thinking. You haven't really let go. So that's what the meditation consists of, really, in a very light way. Noticing. Oh, it's interesting. I'm thinking again. Can I not think? Interesting, isn't it? It's possible to not think. It's your own question. It's possible not to think. How would it be to not think? It's a little tiny glimmer of something, isn't there? Thinking's going on somewhere. And that somewhere has no boundary. I must know it, because I can. If it wasn't like that, then thought couldn't appear, could it? Either there'd be nothing or it would be blocked. So when it says sort of let go into space, it's kind of goes against all your assumptions. You assume, oh yes, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to meditate on space, and I'm going to let go of anything that's obstructing. I mean, it's just so full of assumptions. You don't know what any of it means. What do you mean by I? What do you mean by space? What do you mean by thought? What do you mean to let go? What do you mean by... None of it's, all of it's intuitive really, isn't it? It's kind of hinting at something. So that's what you have to get interested in, really. To follow those hints to somewhere where... Why would somebody say that? Why would somebody describe it like that? Can I find anything in my experience that perhaps that's a kind of way of describing it, although I wouldn't describe it like that. You know what I mean? How would I describe it? So really take ownership. I don't find that instruction helpful. I mean, honestly, myself, I don't. Let go into space. But, I can go back to it and I can think, oh yeah, of course. Yeah, it is quite helpful actually, that sense that even though I've got a concept of space, and that's kind of sort of opened, I feel more open and more, but it is still a concept, so that to not have the concept would be like, I can't stay there. Oh right. Let go into. There's a hint. It suggests there's something other than my concepts. That maybe there's a hint there of something. It's almost like there is something else there, but if I think it's there, then it's a concept. So kind of, it's one movement in a way, isn't it? like the question saying, you know, is it one movement? So, you know, from one point of view, when I talk about it, it sounds like there's lots of thinking going on, doesn't it? That's, again, you've got to use all my words as hints towards something simple. If you try to describe something simple, it takes a lot of words. And none of them describe it, but they could hint at it. I think that instruction is very helpful in the sense that it suggests an element of trust or faith in something. That there's, if we let go of the thinking, there's something there that we can trust, that we could somehow, we're moving towards something that's, in a sense, more real. But again, it's only a hint. And when we talk about faith and devotion, again, it's a hint that there's different ways you might want to describe it, because there's a different way of knowing that you could trust, which is what we're getting at in the DHB, the openness, clarity and sensitivity. There's the reality of that openness, the reality of that clarity, the reality of that sensitivity. It just is real. And like, as you become more convinced about that sort of closed-in feeling of the thoughts, you could perhaps trust the openness, clarity, sensitivity, and notice that closed-inness of the thoughts isn't necessary. And then as you notice they're not necessary, this is a question really, is it a matter of noticing? As you notice they're not necessary, that might give you just a moment of relaxation. Yeah. Again, like the space image, so you can't do anything with it, you can't grab it, you can't grasp it. But you can gain in conviction that actually that must be there. Like the ground under your feet or the air you breathe, you don't have to think about it all the time, but you trust it's there and that works. And the same with this, you trust that true essence of your being is there, and you act as if it's there, and you find it works. It turns out that works, but you can't actually, as I was saying yesterday, you can't actually turn around and look at it. You can't do anything about it. But you can gain conviction in it. Over time you gain conviction. But you can rely on that. And that changes you, changes your experience. Lightens everything up. You know, resources you, kind of. You can start to kind of start to see the thoughts for what they are, and you can see the stickiness of the thoughts for what it is. You're not trapped by them anymore, so you could call that letting go. But you haven't actually got hold of something and then let it go. You stop getting caught up and thinking you have to do something with them. So from that point of view, you could call it, you might want to use the phrase let it go, mightn't you? It's not a bad phrase, I suppose. That's why it's so important to speak to a teacher about your meditation practice, because you need to check that out, and you know how it is in a conversation where one person's using one set of words and the other person's using another set of words, and you can kind of talk about the same experience using different words, and you can tell between yourselves if you're talking about the same thing or not, just by the pattern of the conversation, really. I think I was talking to Vixen Shikpa about this the other day. Talking to a student trying to point out the nature of the mind, the nature of the experience, and you get to some very fine point and you think they're going to get it, or at least they're going to go, oh right, yeah, I'll have to go away and think about that. But at that very point they kind of yawn and say, is there anything else? and you sort of think, that didn't kind of, the penny didn't drop. You can tell it didn't drop. And that's how the conversation has to go, really, because everybody's got their own way of relating to things. So you have to, as a teacher, you would have to learn from that. Oh, right, that kind of, that went by the wayside. that particular conversation didn't really come alive. So, the student carries on and you carry on. Maybe another time, something clicks. But, so I'm saying all that, having said I can't see people this time. But you've had Katie here and you've had Dashu and Tara helping, so hopefully you've had a chance to, and with each other, you've had a chance to kind of talk. I think the conversation is so important. Real conversation where you really try to understand what the other person's saying, and they really try to understand what you're saying. And then both of you gain something from that. Different perspective, perhaps. So I hope that answers the question in a roundabout sort of way. You could say they were the same process, one thing. As you let go the concepts, even if for a fraction of a second something kicks in, for a fraction of a second, kind of, you could perhaps call space, because it isn't anywhere, it isn't anything. So from that point of view it's spacious, but then sometimes our concepts close down so quickly that we don't even notice the moment before it became a concept. So that's where the meditation is important, to loosen up, give more space, allow things to go a little less speedy. And it's not just you that's like that, everybody's like that. We all come in very fast with the thoughts and the concepts and the assumptions. That's why enlightenment is so difficult. Well, you can't just tell people it's like that and they get it and they all go off enlightened. Sad, isn't it?